Hey guys, this is Gary Davidson, and I'm here with Dave Johnson from Fidelity Title. We are here on the Castle Law Podcast, where we're here to create that business worth owning, that life worth living, and that legacy worth leaving. Today, I'm super excited about this topic because it's one of those things that most people don't think about. They think about it as a commodity. And as investors, we're constantly looking to ever increasingly squeeze in all these different areas because product is very, very scarce right now. And the margins aren't what they used to be. And so when we're looking for contractors, when we're looking for our business partners with our attorneys, title companies, we by necessity are having to try to squeeze every single dollar out of a file. And there's opportunities for that. I provide that to my clients all the time. Yet, when it comes to certain things, as an investor, we have to be smart. We have to get the edge in this business because there are certain things that when we're trying to minimize our risk, we're also trying to maximize our return. And sometimes those things don't go hand in hand.
Right.
You can oftentimes try to minimize your risk and maximize your return and make bad choices that put you in a very, very bad spot. So I know we were talking right before about some experiences that you just had in the last couple weeks with properties that were purchased where the investor stood to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Even the house in and of itself.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what happened there?
All right. So, at the end of the day, title insurance is really meant to protect you. It's a one-time fee that you pay at closing that's meant to protect you, protect your interest in the property. Generally, people will think of title insurance as, hey, if anybody ever comes up claiming ownership to the property, I can call my title insurance company and prove to them that I own it, that I am the insured title holder. However, there's so many different situations where title insurance really is meant to protect you, really is meant to benefit you and protect any interest that you might have in the property with any problems that might come up, which you might not think of at first glance. So, for example, nowadays, wire fraud, payoff fraud, extremely prevalent in the marketplace. Have to be careful with it. We have had situations come up where payoffs have been fraudulent, wires have been fraudulent, wires have been misdirected. If you are not going through a title company, any of those situations are not going to be covered, not going to be insured. You're going to be liable for that. If your wire is misdirected, if the payoff goes to the wrong place, if you're not protected by what we call an insured closing, which is what title companies provide, you have liability for any and every part of that transaction that could go wrong.
And DJ, you and I have been doing this a long time.
Right.
I mean, in a lot of ways, we talk about it. This real estate in Illinois has become like the wild, wild west.
Really has.
And there are so many of my clients that will come to me and talk and say, hey, we're just going to, give this money here and wire this money there, and we're going to do a quick claim deed, and we're going to record it. This stuff is going on with investors all of the time. Mm-hmm. And those transactions, if you close on a property and then turn around and quick claim it to someone, there's no insurance.
None at all.
And if there's an issue that comes up, literally, if that property has, I think you told me about this, where there was a fraudulent payoff. So this property, I think it was a couple $100,000 property,
Yep.
and that person had lost everything if the title company was not going to stand behind it.
That is correct.
And if you record a quick claim deed after a closing, all you wholesalers out there that are wanting to, do this assignment, change this, you're putting people at massive, massive risk. And just for a few shillings, literally everything that you've spent that past year building, that legacy, that career that you're trying to get to be in a position where you have financial freedom, you throw it all out the window simply by making a couple of small errors.
You're absolutely right. Another example that we have. So as investors, as wholesalers, everybody's trying to save dollars, right? And sometimes we might get a little bit too extreme in saving those dollars. So one thing that we obviously always condone and push is that you use an attorney. You spend a couple $100 to use an attorney. Another thing that we would always push is you should really always get a survey. Case in point. So we did have a situation where it was a property down south. Investor decided to save a couple $100 and not get the survey, take all liability for it. 2 years later, he purchased the property. 2 years later, it went through. It turns out there was Army Corps of Engineers easement straight through the center of the property. Didn't get title insurance, didn't get a survey, decided he knew what he was doing, he was comfortable with it, and guess what? That's not insured. That easement holder wins, and what happened from that point forward, I don't know, but it was not an insurable transaction. So for the few $100 of what it would cost to get a survey and get a competent attorney to handle that transaction who would have advised him of such, he just very potentially lost the house.
Yeah, and sometimes these people are buying a house, say $50,000, they're putting another $100,000 in it. You put $100,000 on a property that has an easement running right through the middle of it, and they need to use that easement. Too bad, so sad. They're knocking your house down.
Yeah, right. You're absolutely right.
And you know what's amazing to me is that sometimes people don't recognize, because in title companies, I always like to joke, you're in the business of collecting premiums, not paying claims. So even if you closed with a title insurance policy, if you don't have that survey, the title company's only going to insure that which they know. And if you don't provide a copy of a survey, then we have what are called those general exceptions.
Correct.
That won't get waived.
Correct. Your general exceptions, which are really catch-alls that cover any survey issue that may have come up. So if we get a survey, boundary line disputes,
Easements.
Absolutely. Easements, yes. Building setback lines, right? So if we have that survey and we're able to look at it and insure it, we waive those general exceptions. If we do not have a survey, if we are not provided that, we have to leave those general exceptions, and you take subject to all of those items.
And what I tell people a lot is, the reality is that title insurance and having a problem is a very, very, very low chance. However, if you do one closing, if you do two closings, if you do three closings, it's almost like a 1,000-year flood, right?
Right.
Probably won't have a problem. But if you are a person who is buying multiple properties, it's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when.
Right.
And all of those $30,000 checks that you got from your flips can be lost with one transaction.
Absolutely. And it may not be your big easement running through the house or your adverse interest coming in. It could be any array of things. You could have tax issues. You have homeowners association issues. Homeowners associations are the best. You could have payoff issues. You could have fraud issues. There's any number of reasons that would come up that you might have an issue with title after you purchase. If you are doing a volume like that, you're bound to experience it at some point.
And Fidelity Title, which is the company you're with, I've
Correct.
worked with you guys for 20 years now. Fidelity Title is actually the largest title company in the world.
That's correct.
Most people don't realize this. I want you guys to think about it. This is like Philip Morris cigarettes, right? Philip Morris makes Marlboro cigarettes. They make Winston-Salem. They make, whatever. I'm not a smoker, but all the different types of cigarettes. But the reality is the manufacturer of that cigarette, no matter what brand you buy in the store, ultimately is owned by Philip Morris cigarettes. Fidelity is very, very similar. You see all these different brands of title companies out there. Many of them, not all of them, but there's only about 2 or 3 major, huge underwriters are part of that brand of Fidelity Title. So the question that you need to ask yourself is, are you going to go to a small title company, the title company that's just operating in one location to insure hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of insurance? I think about it for anybody that's old enough. The Eagle Man insurance commercial from Cubs games, where the eagle flies down out of the sky and it's a substandard insurance, and we've got something for you, and he lays an egg, and he's offering cheaper insurance than State Farm or Allstate. Well, when you need to file a claim, your claim is being filed with that small title company, and I can speak from experience that can become a major, major problem when you have a huge multi-billion-dollar company standing behind you. These guys are on the Fortune 100 list, I think, or Fortune 200.
300.
Fortune 300.
We're right there.
You're all billionaires. Right. Castle Law, we're trying to get there. But, that you have those claims, and you're going to pay those out. because you're present, you're not going away, you're not filing bankruptcy. I've seen it, because when I started my career, I used a couple of small title companies.
Right.
They went out of business.
Correct.
My deeds didn't get recorded.
That is absolutely
Mortgages didn't get recorded.
Yep.
People were out of jobs. We couldn't find anything. It was an absolute mess for my clients.
Yes, it was. Yes, remember that well.
And you did bail me out.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. So what's the one thing that you would say a business owner that's buying a building, a investor that's buying multiple properties, when it comes to ensuring that they're doing the right things relative to when they go and hire a lawyer and select a title company? What do you think the key is?
I think the key is working with the right team members that understand your business, that understand what your goals are, that understand what you're trying to do with your transactions, that understands how you're trying to get from point A to point B. I think that's very important to have everybody in the same mindset, understanding what's going on and what you're trying to do. I think above all, that is going to be the most important asset in mindset that you can have going into a transaction and picking your attorney and picking your title company and picking your lender.
So this industry, it's definitely fraught with peril. There's a lot of risk, but the good news is that it's actually pretty simple. If you do the right things, you follow that step-by-step approach, you can establish that business worth owning. You can establish that life worth living. You can establish that legacy worth leaving. It's just by doing very, very specific, thought-out processes to make sure that you minimize that risk and have business partners that understand that they'll maximize your return. Thanks so much, Dave. This is Gary Davidson, the Castle Law Podcast, where we're here to help you create that business worth owning, that life worth living, and that legacy worth leaving.